You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Happy Saturday and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network, brought to you by Apogee Grafix, taking your vision to new heights. I'm Ashton with Tony and Landen, returning to get you ready for your sports weekend. What's going on, boys?
Man, deep in summer already.
Dude,
How fast that happens, huh?
Yeah, I know y'all are traveling around for baseball. It's hard to, because we'll talk about the Mavs in a minute, but because they're extending and still playing, like usually summers when only baseball's going on, and for us, that's not really the case right now. For y'all, mostly y'all are traveling for baseball, but a lot to talk about right now. Usually summer is kind of the dog days of summer when it's about sports talk, but we have a full show to get to today. A lot to get to. The Mavs extend the NBA Finals. Joey Chestnut, Kobayashi rematch. But first, say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well-mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top-notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. Like I've said before, we're doing private lessons with our golden retriever right now, and night and day difference. Just still working on some stuff, but a lot that we see happening right now just after a couple of lessons. Contact Korri in the Dapper Dog Academy on Facebook or call and schedule a consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. And again, thank you for listening.
How quick, like when you taking your dog, like was it one visit you noticed a huge difference? Did it take a couple trainings to kind of really see a noticeable difference?
Yeah, I mean, like the first training there, I don't give away all of our secrets, but we use a special leash to pretty much tell him we're in control and break some of his stubbornness. So it's like one lesson, you do see progress, but it's not like, okay, I paid for one lesson, I'm just going to move on, because it's really setting him up to teach him the rest of the stuff. You're kind of breaking him down to build him up.
Yeah.
High mentality. So really each lesson kind of goes on top of each other just for more progress. But I mean, you're supposed to work on the stuff you do in that first lesson throughout the week. We do weekly private lessons to build him for the next lesson. He should have mastered that for the most part to move on to see where, you can do for the next part. But yeah, it was night and day difference, just the way, like, he's still stubborn sometimes, but a couple of tricks that's less frustrating to you where you get him to respond a lot easier.
How is it a certain time length course? What's the
this is like we have
dog?
We have specific goals we're trying to work through. One of them is like kind of aggression, where he growls at other dogs, and we're sure he's not going to do anything, but he's a big dog, so we can't obviously take that chance. And so a lot of it is, first we get him to listen to us. Like we teach him a couple of things. We do something with the leash. Again, I'm not going to give away any secrets, but do something with the leash that makes him, doesn't hurt him, but it makes him uncomfortable. And at first it's like he doesn't want to do anything. So you have to do, when you do this and sit, we'll let it go when you relax, So now we do it and he instantly does it. It's just kind of working through it. So that's like the first step. When he's growling, you're getting aggressive, you do that.
Yeah.
And then in theory, he just sits. And then there's some other stuff you go upon. So you don't have to just stop every time he gets aggressive. There's other things you can do. There's not really a timeline for this one. It's just kind of go with your goals and see what you can accomplish. I'm sure we'll get into way more advanced stuff as it goes on.
That's awesome. Yeah. All the listeners need to go check out Dapper Dog.
Yeah, our golden retriever, we were kind of scared to take him to like the vet and those clinics and stuff to get flea medication, stuff like that. Especially if it was my wife just taking him, just because he would lunge and growl. Never bit a dog or got in a fight. I think he's more bark than bite. But like I said, we don't want to put him in situations where we test that.
Yeah.
And it's like night and day difference. We don't worry about that anymore. And now we're just working on more behavioral stuff.
Yeah.
Just, he's a big dog. He's only a year old, still pretty much a puppy and crazy, jumps on all the furniture, which is fine as long as, he's not, but he'll jump if you sit there and like sit on you and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So great, especially if you have a big dog, trouble controlling. But yeah, Dog Academy, all the info in the description box below. Let's talk about this Mavs game. Dallas forces a game 5 with a 122-84 win over the Celtics last night. Luka with 29, Kyrie with 21. As they scored most of their points in the first 3 quarters. I believe they set the entire fourth quarter, both of them, because just had a big lead. And this game wasn't ever really close. I don't know that I really relaxed till probably halfway through the third quarter. Because, even the Mavericks were down like 21 in the fourth the other night and came back within 1. So, and this Boston team they can light it up from three-point range, and it just wasn't on tonight. But, all it takes is, a quick 30 seconds. They score 9 points and they're kind of back in it. But yeah, really late third going into the fourth, it wasn't close at all. I think at one point the Mavs were up by 48, if I'm correct. And whenever they had that biggest lead, that was the biggest lead in an NBA Finals game in 50 years. Thoughts?
Well, I'll start off that we talked about this before. You and I have had private conversations about this in the Mavs. I truly feel like the Mavs are still playing with house money. We talked about it when the playoffs began. What would be a disappointment in the season? And for me, it was a first round exit.
Yeah.
It's still a really young team, a team that just hasn't played a lot of playoff basketball. I mean, Luka's in his first finals appearance. This season, winning the first round for me was important. That was where this team should have been. Anything after that was just extra, we could get excited about. So after the Mavs go down 3-0, the Mavs fan base, they're pretty upset, right? I mean, you think, man, why you've been so dominant through the playoffs and now you're not. The Mavs are definitely in a position to possibly come back and win this. If any team in the NBA could do it, they can do it. Yeah. But they're also going against a very talented powerhouse of the Celtics. I mean, I never thought the Mavs were going to come in and sweep the Celtics. I knew the Celtics were going to hold their own.
Yeah. Yeah, this is playing with house money, exceeding expectations. I think everyone kind of moves bar as the playoffs go on. And at this point, before last night anyway, it was don't get swept. And right now, it extends a little bit further. Like I said, the bar's raising. I'm like, come on, let's just win one more game. Then, 15 years from now, they won't think of this as the Mavs were down 3-0. They're like, hey, the Celtics won this series in 6 games,
Yeah.
But if Dallas can manage to go into Boston and win a game, I think it's a completely different series because you're coming back home for game 6 and the pressure's on Boston. And who knows, if you go into a game 7, sure, Boston's favored, but after you just won 3 games when being down 3-0, it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. A lot of pressure for the Celtics. It's desperate team mode. That's what happens. Now, hopefully they can still channel some of that. I mean, Luka and Kyrie look good. We know Luka's still dealing with some injuries. Lively looks really good. Gafford looked good at points. If the team, if all the players can do their role, do their part, I mean, there's no reason they don't have a chance to beat Boston. And I'm just taking it one game at a time. Let's just go with game 5. Let's see if we can extend it to 6 games.
Yeah.
Then the chatter continues. Boston gets a little, we've talked about Tatum and Brown being more or less known for choking in the finals and the playoffs.
This wouldn't be the Dallas Mavericks if there wasn't a little drama, just like just about any Dallas sports team. I think Luka likes it. Luka likes the drama. Luka likes the pressure to be on.
He responded really well for being called out by Jason Kidd for his lack of defense, for the national media kind of calling him out.
Yeah.
he responded, and that's what stars do. They don't crumple up. They respond. Now, with all that said, same thing I said about game 1 when the Mavs got blown out. Doesn't matter how much you win by, still only counts as one win. So I saw a stat this morning saying, despite being down 3-1, the Mavericks are outscoring Boston by like 4 or 5 points.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. They just won by 30 something.
Yeah.
But even with all that, like, is that, let's say they lose game 5 by like 3 points, lose the series, but still have that, like, is that's
a pretty meaningless stat.
Yeah, you're not going to be talking like, oh yeah, we won. You're like, yeah, but we outscored you. It doesn't matter. So that's great. You scored a bunch of points. It's great. It made me feel like there's more confidence going to game 6. If you would have just barely won, I think it's like, okay, you stole one, but we'll see. Boston is going to play completely different at home. They were up 3-0, looked lethargic. Their threes just weren't falling. If a few more of those threes fall earlier on in the game and you keep it within like 15 points, I think it's a little different. I think once you get over 20, and then I think at some point they're just like, let's mail it in. We'll go back to Boston. We have a couple more chances to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully the Mavs stay in the right mindset. They don't get overconfident now. They look like they were having fun, which is great. Luke and Kyrie got some rest. They get a couple more days off. Still a lot of work to do. And then, like I said, game 5 on Monday is back in Boston. Don't bet with your guts. Check out Betalytics and get help making your picks using their AI algorithms. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off. When you sign up today, go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter. Okay, now we're going to try to take this next story as seriously as possible because Netflix seems to be. So we got Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi, a lot in the news with Chestnut lately, but Netflix has scheduled a Chestnut versus Kobayashi titled Unfinished Beef to stream on September 2nd on Labor Day. In what Netflix says they are taking very, very seriously. Joey Chestnut saying it's time to give the people what they want. Is this what the people wanted? Like I didn't think Kobayashi versus Chestnut was like I thought that about Pacquiao versus Mayweather, and then we got that way too late when they were a little too old. This is cool. I'm gonna watch it, but I don't think before they announced this that I had even given any thought to a Kobayashi Chestnut rematch.
No. I mean, is this? I assume this is prior to his recent.
Well, they announced it right after, but yeah, you think maybe they knew it was coming because we'll get. We'll just go ahead and say it. Joey Chestnut was banned from this year's Nathan hot dog eating contest after teaming up with rival brand Impossible Foods.
Okay, hold on. Say that again, and say it with a straight face. Say it again.
Rival brand, yeah. I said it on the sports page. I don't think Impossible Foods is really a rival. I mean, they're a competing company, but like Oscar Mayer, I don't even know if Nolan Ryan beef hot dogs are even big enough to.
Is this a big thing in the hot dog industry that like the competition level and like there's rules that Nathan's has in their hot dog eating contest?
Their hot dog eating contest. It's. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I'm trying to think of something comparative. Okay. We'll talk about in a little bit, but the Big 12 conference is in talks with being sponsored by Allstate naming rights. We'll get to that later. Okay. So they already sponsored the Big 12 championship. So let's say, well, I was going to say Quinn Ewers. They're not in the Big 12 anymore, but I can't even think of it. Just name your quarterback on a Big 12 team. Let's say you got an NIL deal from State Farm. Are they going to tell him in his MVP, whatever award acceptance speech at the Big 12 championship that he can't say anything about State Farm? Like they probably wouldn't want him to, but it's like this. They're not going to say he can't speak at the podium because he's sponsored. Now,
ban him because he's sponsored. That's the thing is, what's the deal? Like there's sponsorships all over. Like there's players that are sponsored by Adidas and Puma and all these others, and the leagues are Nike. Like
Nathan's throws. It's not like Nathan sponsors this. Nathan throws this whole event on July 4th. So yeah, and the reason they do is because it's just kind of a big joke. I mean, it's a good tradition. It's cool, whatever. But it's a big.
Let me ask you this:
fun joke.
Is this just a ploy for Nathan's? Because who else is going to be talking about Nathan's hot dog eating contest prior to the morning or afternoon of July 4th when this happens? Like, they're not in the news. So is this just a ploy for them to like be gas? I think that I don't know what you even call him. Like Joey Chestnut is the dominant. I mean, he's the star of eating.
Yeah, it's pretty close. So it's pretty close. Like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I'm like, I think Nathan's just does this because they're supposed to. It's like there's no way they're making like Nathan's. I'm not going to the store and buying Nathan's hot dogs because of that. You know, I mean, obviously they're going to be more familiar.
Does this backfire on them? Because I kind of thought this when I heard this is by Joey Chestnut. I mean, he's an icon. You know, people love him.
Who else do you know? Who else do you know that's going to compete? There's like random like 10, 12 people. I don't know anybody else. I'm not in the competitive food mindset, the competitive food industry, even thinking about that. It helps on that one instance. When doing research for this, we talked about on the sports page. Joey Chestnut was paid by Nathan's to like $200,000 to be at these events. I don't know that Joey Chestnut would have went to the event anyways if he wasn't banned. But from Nathan's standpoint, it's like, hey, now we don't have to pay him. Let Impossible Foods pay him to come here. He still has to wear a Nathan's shirt or whatever. We won't let him say anything about Impossible Foods in his acceptance speech. And, you know, win-win. We still get a guy. We don't have to pay for him. Let Impossible Foods do that. But if Joey Chestnut would have backed out, that would have been the story. And I think Nathan's would have looked better in this mindset. Like, oh, Joey Chestnut's not going. I think Joey Chestnut would kind of look like, I'll say the villain because this is all kind of funny, but would look like the bad guy a little bit. But yeah, I think this has kind of been planned. They can't just call them up and say, hey, we doing this? Okay, let's get a graphic designer and we'll produce it. But this one-on-one hot dog eating competition was announced after Joey Chestnut was banned from the hot dog eating contest. Fun fact, he's also been banned from whatever, I don't even know the name of the league, but whatever major league eating or national competitive, whatever the league is, because there's a league like you go, they have events, all kinds of different food, not even hot dogs. You know, I think Joey Chestnut owns a couple of other records for different foods, but he was banned also because of Impossible Foods, which is weird. It's like y'all can't get Impossible Food. Like,
do we have a contact or a connection at Impossible Foods? Possibly somebody that is in the industry, the food eating industry. I mean, hook us up. You know what? Peak One will have our own hot dog eating contest,
and we'll use Impossible. Yeah, because
let's use Impossible Foods.
Because somebody, I don't remember what, maybe it was on social media, but somebody said something. It's like, yeah, well, you have to use good hot. Like, I don't even remember the conversation, but it's like, if you're just scarfing down hot dogs or wings or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It was about alcohol. We were talking about beers or whatever, and then I said, okay, if you don't like Bud Light or whatever, cheaper beers, cheaper as in, you know, price point. If you like the expensive beers and you're going to go and drink a lot, just drink a couple of your expensive ones and then switch to Coors Light or whatever, because after a few, you're not going to care. And that's the same thing with this. Like, if it's going to be a vegan hot dog, and maybe they're really good. I've never had a vegan hot dog from Impossible Foods. Maybe they're really good, but it's like at that point, if you don't,
have you had an Oscar Mayer hot dog? It's probably the same thing. They're cheap. Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry, not Oscar Mayer.
Do you want us to have a sponsorship or not?
The Bar S hot dog. That's probably the equivalent.
I did have I think it was Impossible Foods. I know it was a plant-based burger back when I was having health issues, and they told me to go vegan for a few months. But I don't know if it was Impossible Foods. It was all right. It had a weird taste to it or whatever, but I would do a hot dog eating contest by Impossible Foods, because if you're just scarfing them down after the first couple, you're going to be uncomfortable anyway. So who cares what they taste like? But maybe that's Maybe that's an opportunity for us.
Maybe we can get
have
that
our own
set up.
Peak One hot
We
dog
need
eating contest.
any of the hot dog, I guess,
Yeah,
manufacturer brands
yeah. If you're
reach
a
out to
local
us.
small hot dog manufacturer, before I reach out to Impossible Foods, if you can jump in, like maybe we can
Yeah,
get
reach out
something
to
done.
us. Hey, we're not hard to find.
Yeah, we can. We'll talk about how I think this was a missed opportunity. Netflix should have done it on July 4th. They did it on Labor Day, which is kind of a hot dog eating holiday, but not really the same. I think they should have done it at the exact same time as Nathan's hot dog eating contest, because not that a bunch of people are going to watch this, but if you're going to watch a hot dog eating contest on July 4th, you're
You
probably going to watch this.
you want to see the
Kobayashi
best.
Chestnut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to see the best. So who do we know who is in the hot dog eating contest? I mean, is it any names?
I have absolutely no clue. I promise you, if you listed off the roster, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, I have no clue. I can tell you Kobayashi. I can tell you with confidence, Kobayashi and Chestnut are the only two competitive eaters I've ever heard of or would remember their name. No chance. Now, if I follow competitive eating a little bit closer, I'm sure I could get into it. But it's just it's there's the hot dog eating contest, but like I said, there's wings,
so
there's shrimp, there's everything. So it's hard to get into because there's so many different facets of it.
There's like you have to go to several events to qualify.
Yeah. It's
Qualifiers.
not like you can just walk in and I watched a documentary about Kobayashi and Chestnut were in it, but this was years. But like Kobayashi was kind of up and coming, and
So there's actually
they talked about like all the stuff they had to do just to get to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. It's definitely like the Super Bowl of competitive eating.
and it's like a lot of fairs throughout the country. They have the contest will be. So there's one today in Pleasanton, California. So if you're in that area at 1:30 today, you can go watch one of the qualifiers for the Nathan's.
That's what it is. Is it National League Eating or something like that? Major League Eating? I know it's something to that extent, but if it's like that professional competitive eating, if it's sponsored or run by that organization, that's when the qualifiers count more as you go. They're always at like local fairs.
Like this is just Nathan's, like from Nathan's website, their own qualifiers.
Oh, they're all it's a hot dog eating contest. Okay. So do you have to do all hot dog eating contests to compete? I guess that would make sense.
I think so. That's what it looks like.
But I mean, there's a lot of training that goes into it, like training your body to be able to like accept
so it
that
is.
much.
The top male and top female finisher from each qualifier will be invited to compete at the ESPN televised Nathan's famous 4th of July International Hot Dog Eating Contest.
I guess they just get invited. They probably aren't paid unless they win. I mean, Joey Chestnut's just a big name. They're paying like a spokesperson basically to be there.
Yeah, so there's 4 qualifiers this year. 2 have already passed. There's one today, and then the final one is June 22nd, so next Saturday, in Washington, D.C. at the Giant National Capital Barbecue Battle.
So you just have to win one of those to qualify.
Yeah.
Nice. It's funny, you notice that like all the really good competitive eaters, the champions, are all like really skinny people.
Yeah.
Like
I
think
the big guys, and they usually don't win.
Yeah, I think there's endurance to it, but I think most of it is like when they're not training, I think they eat really healthy. I think they take care of their bodies and then they train specifically for this. Like I know Kobayashi would eat a bunch of lettuce because that stretches out your stomach more to get ready for training. Like that's the first part of training is eating a bunch of lettuce, and then you work to hot dogs and all that good stuff. So these guys,
you are prepared to train for the Peak One International Hot Dog Eating Contest.
I was prepared to do the 999 challenge until I ate a couple of the hot dogs at those Railroaders games. I've been eating healthier and losing weight and working out, so this might be the best time where I can still come back from it a little bit. But yeah, I am 100% because I think 10 hot dogs can get it done. I don't know.
In an amateur setting, yeah.
In an amateur, like Peak One, like it's like maybe we open it up to other people, see how popular it is. But if it's just like between the hosts of Peak One, I think 10, 12 hot dogs. Not that that's easy to do, but I'm not going to eat 60 hot dogs.
Well, to Landen, these qualifiers are only open to 18 years and older. So you don't qualify for that.
Makes sense.
You can qualify for the Peak One International Hot Dog Eating Contest.
Can't either. We have to look at the legal ramifications of that.
We'll open that up.
Well, you're his legal guardian. I guess you could take all the risk. But these guys are taking it very seriously. I talked about Joey Chestnut's comment. Kobayashi was, of course, banned from the Nathan's Hot Dog eating. I can't say banned from Nathan's Hot Dog with a straight face. I think the only thing that'd make it crazier if it was Oscar Mayer Wiener. I would have to say he was banned from Oscar Mayer Wiener.
Yeah.
But he was banned back in 2010 because of contract disputes with Nathan's Hot Dog. Kobayashi said,
like, ban is such a strong term. Like, how do you just say they're not competing or we couldn't come to terms, or like,
so
ban is it's a
weird situation because it's Nathan's event, but it's not like the Super Bowl or whatever. Like, it's just a neutral, like they don't care.
So to answer your question, though, I just found these are all tied to the Major League Eating.
Major League Eating, that's what it's called. Okay, that's what
the MLE.
MLE. We're gonna have to cover this a lot more.
I mean, I can't believe that we're like 10 minutes in on a.
This is gonna be like a quick thing. I'm like, these guys aren't even gonna. Okay, so Kobayashi said, "quote Retiring for me will only happen after I take him down one last time." This is a bit. There's no way Kobayashi thinks he hasn't competed against.
Being on Netflix, this thing is going to be so cheesy.
But look at Netflix. September you got this. November you got the Tyson Paul fight. December you got some NFL games. It's like, man, Netflix is killing it a little bit.
I think this goes hand in hand with what Netflix is doing. Kind of off topic, but they're going. The streaming services went all big, and now they're kind of pulling back on that. And they're like, oh no, we want to do more live TV, live events, live. So this is kind of going hand in hand.
And shout out to Netflix, at least for now. They're not charging extra for this. Like, if you already have Netflix, I know if you don't have Netflix, it's nothing big to you. But like, to me, like I used to have ESPN Plus, and I would still have to pay extra for other things. It's like I'm already paying Netflix, and Netflix is like, hey, this is just included. That may change in the future if this is big or whatever they see dollar signs. But Kobayashi also went to say competing against Joey live on Netflix means fans all over the world can watch me knock him out one more time. Knock him out? You're eating hot dogs.
Knock him out with his wiener.
I guarantee you they're gonna finish within like a half hot dog. This is I'm not saying it's necessarily gonna be rigged, but if one of them starts pulling away from the other, Netflix is going to be like, it's 1-on-1. We're not having a blowout here. This has to, and maybe they get him back for next year. Maybe if there's a big deal, like I think next year they should do it on July 4th and compete. I don't know legal ramifications of that, but I think Netflix is a bigger company than Nathan's. Next question: what brand hot dog do they use in this?
I was just thinking that.
I wonder if Vegas has like betting odds on what hot dog brand they use, or they will going closer. Will it be Impossible Foods?
I think with them in the news now, I think that it'd be a smart play by them to go to Kobayashi's camp and say, hey, we'll pay you for this to be the hot dog that you guys compete with. This we will pay you to do that. I think it's a great move for them. I think this could be something that skyrockets their market share. If they don't, I think it's a missed opportunity by Impossible.
So because they named this competition Unfinished Beef, are they able to use Impossible Foods? Does that count as, I know it doesn't count as beef. Does Impossible Foods call this Impossible Beef or anything? Do they use the word beef?
Maybe they changed the name to I don't know. Actually, I don't know what they could.
Yeah, because we might get a bigger controversy if Impossible Foods isn't the one that does this. And then, I mean, I guess I've said Impossible Foods like 40 times today, and counting on the sports page. Like,
Which
I've
is
never
40 more than
that.
you've ever said it your entire life.
Yeah, not even to mention in front of a mic. So I mean, they're getting all kinds of press. So I'd be like, wait, Nolan Ryan beef hot dogs for all I care. Just wear. I'm sure they have to wear. I mean, he'll wear Impossible Beef, Netflix, all that kind of sponsorship. But yeah, do we have anything else to add to this before we move on to baseball?
I'm for real about this. If any hot dog vendors out there, hit us up, man. We'll put this together. We'll use your product.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We'll compete against Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I mean, because with us, we have the same size celebrity names as Nathan's hot dog contest will probably have without Kobayashi or Joey Chestnut.
I mean, we'll get the Chris Robb involved in this too.
Chris Robb is moving back to Dallas here pretty soon.
Man,
I'd say so. Maybe we can get. I know Kenny Mays, aka Reckless, will probably want to be involved. He's up in New Jersey, but maybe we can get something together. I guess we could do it.
We could do a virtual.
Yeah, we have to make sure he's using the correct relegated hot dogs, everything the same, just so there's no cheating going on. But yeah, wake up, Landen. We got your baseball segment coming up. Let's go. Tell us what's going on with the Rangers.
Well, injuries.
Oh, what else is new?
Well, they're winning. That's the good thing. 2 losing series in a row in Detroit and San Francisco. Then they come back and beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, Robertson in 2 straight games struck out Mookie Betts. Who else did he strike out? I keep wanting to say Shohei. I keep wanting to say Kobayashi now. God, that shows how racist I am. Shohei, Mookie Betts, and somebody else. He struck all 3 out in the same inning in both games.
Yeah, they beat the Dodgers in the series. They lost to Seattle last night.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play again tonight at 6:15. Uvalde's pitching.
Okay.
The injury side isn't as bad. Spores is still out with a shoulder. He's in AAA Round Rock. Josh Jung got surgery. They saw that it was worse than what the x-ray showed. So he's on 60-day now, but he did take batting practice. And he's supposed to take batting practice one more time before he goes down to AAA to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Scherzer is still on 60-day IL with back and arm.
Yeah.
But he only allowed 1 hit, 1 walk while striking out 5 over 4 scoreless innings in AAA.
Yeah, he's looking good.
I saw something about Evan Carter was injured. He got put on 10-day IL.
Yeah, he's dealing with back stuff, which is kind of scary because he's had back issues.
Yeah, that stress fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's back today.
Okay.
I don't know if he'll play today, but he is scheduled to be back today. I know last night Seager was back in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So the lineup.
He was back the other day. He hit a big home run. One of the games against the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, the 3-run.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking good. I saw yesterday that Heim didn't play, and that kind of scared me.
Yeah.
But I think
he got hurt the other day. DeGrom too. DeGrom just threw a bullpen session, so and apparently it went okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks bad because you have like 6 pitchers and a couple key position players on the IL right now, but
I think what the positive note to take out of that is that, it's early enough in the season, pre-All-Star break, that maybe it's good. Some of these guys, maybe they're being a little over cautious about them.
Yeah.
And gonna let them
Bring him
sit,
back
kind
too
of
early.
rest up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of how the Rangers turned in last season, right? They got a lot of guys back, got healthy at the end of the season, and were able to turn it on. So I think that's the only positive you could see for this team is that
Just stay in the race and then go
just stay
for
close
it.
enough
Yeah.
until you get late in the season when other teams are dealing with
Yeah.
tough injuries, and maybe you get a fresh team back.
Yeah, and I bet you they make a move at the trade deadline. Also, when we get closer to that, we're still pretty far away. You would think pitcher because they have a lot of pitching injuries, but they've actually their pitching hasn't been the issue. Like I think they won 2-1 lost 2-1 last night. I think they're
like
hitting
3-2.
3-2. I think their hitting has kind of been hit and miss, no pun intended, in a lot of games where they're losing these games 3-2, 2-1, stuff like scores like that, where they have a lot of injuries in the lineup too, not just pitching. I think their pitching's been really good comparatively. Saying that most of their pitchers have had an IR stint, but I think they make a big move one way or the other. Whatever I guess is ailing them at the time. Because I think Scherzer will come back. He's older. I don't know how effective he'll be, but that's another arm. And DeGrom, I have no idea. Maybe if he's ready, like maybe near the mid-September, if they're competing for a playoff spot, if they look like they're going to get in the playoffs one way or the other, they'll probably save him for the playoffs if he's ready. If he even ever pitches this year, we don't know. But I guess that's a silver lining you can take from this. A lot of guys are getting a lot of rest right now, and you're still kind of, hovering close to 500 within shouting distance of, the wild card race, and not too far out from the AL West race.
You're still right there in the race. I mean, there's no alarms here to sound off yet. You're
it's
not
a marathon, not a
All-Star break.
sprint.
I think when you get to the All-Star break, you need to be, maybe a game or two over 500, depending on where the rest of the league stacks up. But, just be hovering above 500, and then just be in striking distance, ready to go.
I think the good thing is for them that, I don't know if y'all saw it, a couple weeks ago, Simeon and Adolis had their collision in right field.
Yeah.
The good thing is that nobody came too injured from that. Simeon took a day off, which he probably needed, because I don't know if he's had a day off in a couple years.
Yeah, he missed one game 2 years ago, and he didn't miss any games last year, including playoffs.
Yeah, so he got a day off. I'm sure Adolis has gotten a day off between then. But it helps that guys can do that when you have guys like Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran who can fill in gaps there.
Yeah, right now, Adolis just isn't looking good. He's not, he's had a couple of good games, but overall, he's not. We're talking about Wyatt Langford probably needs to go back down to AAA to reset. But Wyatt Langford has better numbers than Adolis, or has the last couple of weeks. Adolis didn't just forget how to play baseball. So you got to take that into account too. Like, he's just not hot right now. And not that he may go all season and not get hot, but it would be one thing if, pitching's well, everyone's kind of hitting okay, and you're still not winning. At least there's things you can point to and say, okay, here's this, here, Adolis Garcia probably is not going to be in this slump all season long. Wyatt Langford, he's young. It's hard to tell. Like, maybe he puts it back together. And then their pitching, I think it's been great considering. That's all I can say. I think it's been great considering, and hopefully you're starting to get more of these guys back. You're still dealing with some, but I think the cup's not overflowing anymore, because before it's like, okay, we're about to get one guy back and one guy goes. I think you're getting guys back from serious injuries, long stints on the IL, and you're not sending them back necessarily. So hopefully here coming in July, you'll have more or less a full roster of who you thought you were going to have. So all you got?
Yep.
All right, moving right along. I'm glad. We had a lot to talk about. Looks like we're going to be able to hit everything. All right, I wanted to save the thread for y'all when y'all came back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Florida State uniforms that came out. Not necessarily new and not necessarily plans to wear them in an actual game, but these uniforms, let me get them pulled up. I'll give you I guess this is a rendering. This isn't actual. I mean, although they have worn them, this is called the Seminole Heritage uniforms. Is that even powder blue? It's more turquoise.
Yeah, I think that's what I read. These were, that's the kind of color they were looking at. You know, it's hard. Obviously, it's hard when you look on a computer. See them in real life, they may be more of a turquoise color.
So here,
I like it. I like it a lot.
I have a picture of them wearing them because the Florida State players wore their blue jerseys at the spring case this year, which is what brought all this up. This is them wearing them, obviously with the maroon pants, not the blue pants like that. So that's what brought this up. The heritage uniforms have been worn across multiple sports at Florida State, most notably men's and women's basketball. What those uniforms look like. They've used those multiple times.
I feel like I've seen their baseball team wear these.
Yes.
And, and you think it's just the powder, like the powder blue, like a lot of teams use.
Yeah. So football is really the only notable sport that hasn't worn them in a game.
I think football's pulled it off here. I would say right now, of all the uniforms, alternates, things I've seen, I mean, even Houston killed it with theirs, the Texans.
Yeah.
Man, I think this is the uniform of the year already.
This uniform, not just the football, just across all sports, pays homage to the school's roots with the Seminole tribe in Florida. And this being the first, going back to the spring game, the actual pictures, this is the first appearance of them on the football field. Here we go. The color turquoise represents harmony, friendship, and fellowship in the culture of many Native Americans. The uniforms that the basketball team have worn, this may be the same label for them, but the Nike N7 collection, inspired by rapper Taboo's relationship with his Native American heritage. Maybe the school just kind of really adopted the just a turquoise color with all of this. There is no indication that the football team will wear these uniforms in an actual game. But the turquoise blue with the Florida State football team did get some fan interest last season when Florida released the turquoise jerseys for purchase ahead of the team's Heritage Night against Duke last October. Football team did not wear them, but the coaching staff did wear turquoise polos and hats and stuff like that. But you can actually go buy this jersey. Again, this mock-up makes the numbers look a little darker because here it's more turquoise, more color of the pants.
Yeah.
Maroon. I mean that does look maroon, but I think it looks a little more darker. Than this.
I like the arm sleeve.
Go buy that jersey right now.
The arm sleeve ties it in. Man, they knocked that one out of the park.
The question I'm thinking though is this uniform going to be available in college football 25?
Oh man,
I'm sure there's ways you can download other packages. So maybe I think this would be awesome. Like if it's only in there if the school sent that information to EA to put in there, because I know, is it Northwestern is going to have like a lakeside stadium that they are actually going to play out one time or two times or something.
Yeah,
they're actually going to have it in the game as an option. It's weird that the stands are just at each end zone. But that'd be really cool.
You can purchase this jersey $78.
Yeah, it's a really cool jersey. And I hope, because you can pick, it doesn't necessarily have to be uniforms they wear, because you can mix and match all kind. You can make the most ridiculous looking uniforms that they never wear, or even some ones that look really cool that they probably wouldn't wear that combo. Because I'm liking, I mean, this looks cool, all turquoise, but man, I like the turquoise with the red or the maroon, whatever their official red color is.
Yeah, being able to mix and match that.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I think hopefully this is at least an updated.
I've always been a huge
Option.
fan of Florida State's, even back as a kid, you know, with the tribal like on the neckband.
Yeah.
You know, just the arrows on the helmets, the spear.
And going back to this basketball uniform, is that their normal stripe, the feather? Because that's really cool. I don't watch enough Florida State basketball. I don't know if that's these uniforms in general, because I know they have gold and white and red. I really like that implementation of the feather as the stripe. It's really
I don't
cool.
think, like, I haven't noticed that. I think maybe that is just on those uniforms, because I haven't seen that.
I should know, right? I'm a Duke fan and they're in the same conference. So, I mean, I've at least seen Florida State play. But, I think that might be just for that uniform, because I feel like I would have noticed it watching it, because that's a really cool implementation on those uniforms.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more things to get to here. Y'all can jump in if y'all want to, but I'm just going to kind of update everybody. Coming up this summer, the 2024 Paris Olympics. I feel like this is going to be the first Olympics since we started Peak One. So we're going to, I feel like, have a lot of coverage on this. We'll see a lot of talking points, especially in the summer after NBA is over and all you really have is MLB. But we're starting to get ready for the Olympics. We're a little over a month away. They start on July 27th. I guess that's the opening ceremonies. I don't know. It'll be pretty interesting, because when we do this show on Saturdays, you should, like, being in Paris a few hours ahead, it should, like, things should be going on and you know, during the day, so we can actually update you live on some things. But U.S. Olympic qualifiers start here today for, let's see, swimming starts today. Team trials, you can watch that on NBC and Peacock. Track and field start next week on NBC and Peacock as well. And I think gymnastics is going to be a little more popular for viewers to watch. You know, Simone Biles, like, you can, just the fact that I can name a gymnastics competitor for Team USA is all the evidence I need. That starts next week as well. It's an 8-day competition that you can see on NBC. I assume Peacock too. And also USA. So it's not exclusively on a streaming service. If you want to make sure to check some of that out, just to get the U.S. Olympic team set going into Paris, because gymnastics, you know, the U.S. gymnastics teams is one of the juggernauts. I think they're definitely, I don't know if they're a juggernaut expected to win gold, but they're definitely in the running to win the gold medal, as well as you know, the men's basketball team, women's basketball team, obviously with some controversial issues not having Caitlin Clark on the team.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Have
we talked about, has any of our other shows talked about
Sports Page? We did talk about it. We actually had a pretty long segment. Me, from the standpoint of talent, I don't necessarily have a problem with leaving her off, because she's not the best player in the WNBA. She was the best college basketball, you know, top 2, top 3, obviously most prolific. They said this isn't a popularity contest, which I can respect, I guess. I mean, I think it kind of is. You want, you know, you're talking about getting more viewers on your
national team. Yeah.
No offense, but women's basketball isn't exactly killing it on the world stage either.
Well, I mean, so does it make any difference if she's on or off? Like, women's national team will walk through the rest of the world and win a gold medal. To me, bottom line, that's it. I'm calling it now. They will win a gold medal with or without her. Doesn't matter. This is U.S. women's team is phenomenally better than any other team in the world.
To me, because the men's basketball team, I think, does use, you know, bigger names if it makes sense. Like, I wrote down to the best of my knowledge for WNBA, and I had Caitlin Clark somewhere in between 10, 12, 13, 14 best player in the WNBA right now. I think she's going to be top 5 future,
Yeah.
and there's 12 spots on a women's basketball team. So that's why I don't think it's controversial to leave her on or off anyways. I would have put her on because I don't think putting her on as the 12th person is really going to affect whether, your competition level in the Olympics. I don't think if you put her on there, she's going to be lost or out of her element. I think she'll do just fine. Being a rookie right now, she's definitely more prolific than I'll say all the players, but at least 10 of them. I think the NBA does it too as well. When you're kind of talking about that 10th, like I think there's 12 on the men's basketball team as well, but you're talking about 10 to 12 that number of player getting on the roster. I don't think it matters if you have somebody within that range that's a little more popular, you throw them on there to be a big name, because obviously you're going to showcase your team. And if Caitlin Clark's like 40th best player in WNBA, I get it, but I think she's probably top 12, but she's right in that range. I have no problem putting her on, but I don't think it's a controversy leaving her off. When you're talking about talent, and I think most people, even who think it's controversial, agree that they're all putting the points of, look how many seats she fills, look how many, how much rating she gets. They're not talking about her being one of the best players in the WNBA because she's not quite there yet. I think being 10, 11, 12 still makes you a superstar.
Yeah.
Even as a rookie, but most people are defending the fact that she's not on the team as she's putting more eyes on the team, which kind of just validates the point that they said it's not going to be a popularity contest. I personally would have put her on there for that reason, but I agree. If they lose in a close game in the gold medal game, they lose by 2 or 3. I don't know anybody's going to say, well, if you had Caitlin Clark,
it will be said, just in spite of them losing.
You think somebody's going to say that?
But
yeah,
nationally, all of the national media, has been up in arms about this, that she's not on the team. And you're right. It's not just a talent contest. It's a popularity contest. Like I said, It doesn't matter if she's on it. You could take half this team away and fill them with lesser players, and they're still going to dominate on the world stage.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter that much. So it does become a popularity contest at this point, because you're going to go dominate regardless.
Yeah. And like I said, if she was out there, I think she'd be fine. I think she'd be one of the better players, not necessarily on Team USA, but she'd be able to compete against, on the world stage.
Yeah.
But it's a good rest for her, because if you don't follow the WNBA, because it goes during the summer, it takes place right after college basketball season. So they really didn't have an off season. The draft was like the next week after the championship. You had maybe a couple of weeks till preseason started. So really she's been going nonstop. So this is probably a good rest for her. And we'll see, but she'll probably be on the Olympic team the next 2 or 3 times, especially next year. It's in Los Angeles. It'll be an American hosted Olympic event. And we'll see. She's a rookie. Just relax. It's okay. Doesn't have to be controversial. She doesn't have to be on the team. It'll be, like you said, American basketball is so competitive. We have most of the best athletes in the world. Not because they come here to play, just because American athletes usually tend to be, because we just have the camps and everything in place as they're growing up. So that's why it's a lot more competitive to try to get on this roster than it would be anywhere else. We're not saying Caitlin Clark couldn't compete at a world level. It's just that there's so many good players in the WNBA. It's not like Caitlin Clark walked in and like, oh, we finally have a good basketball player. That was never the issue. I've watched WNBA basketball before. It's a very, very good sport. It just doesn't have the viewership is the issue.
Yeah.
All right. The Big 12 is in discussions with Allstate on a naming rights deal. Nothing's been for sure done. We don't know if this is going to be a thing, but the name possibilities that have been thrown out there include the Big All-State Conference or the All-State 12 Conference, which apparently this is where college football is going. It started with
the most
bowls.
ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Well, it started with the bowl games, and now every bowl game has a sponsor. You have the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Now it's the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, not the Peach Bowl brought to you by Chick-fil-A. We mentioned earlier Allstate's the Big, because I thought, I'm like, well, who's the sponsor of the Big 12 championship game? Is it going to be the Allstate Big 12 championship game brought to you by? But it is Allstate, so they're just taking one step further.
They need to do away with the Big 12, Big 10, obviously Pac-12 is going, like, just go back Southwest Conference.
Yeah.
If
And it doesn't even make sense anymore. The Big 12 has like 16 teams now. The Big 10 has 14. They may have 16 teams. They just got USC.
You're going to change the name?
Oregon.
They may have 18 teams. Real about it. Let's just get real about what the name should be and do away with the number of teams, because it's changing constantly.
And regionally, it doesn't even make sense anymore to do. I mean, I guess the Southeast Conference is still, the worst. Where they have Missouri, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. That's the worst of it. So they're still relatively Southeast, but Big 10 was traditionally like Midwest, and that's changed. Big 12 kind of encapsulates everybody now. You have East Coast teams, West Coast teams, or West Coast time zone teams. I don't have a problem calling it the Big 12, just because in my mind it keeps everything straight, just historically for me. Big 12, Big 10. But we went to social media, asked what fictional names for this conference would be, and we have quite a few. I'm going to give some shout outs here. Jeff Sider, Big 12 powered by Allstate. I commented back to him, or replied to him, and said that sounds so natural. I'm not fazed by it. I think we're just blind to it now with all the sponsorships. That's like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, oh, does it? That's, that still kind of sounds like we're a sponsor. We're not the naming rights. Now we're going to logos on the ad logos on college football field. It's just getting ridiculous. Mark Maraday, All-State Big 12. Kevin Kent, the 12 All-State Conference. Dan Boyer, host of the sports page here on Peak One, said there's no need to have 12 in there because they have 16 teams, or maybe have 18. I have to go recount. But he said the Big All-State Conference. Corey Smith got a little more creative with this. He said the All-State Big 12 Mayhem Conference, bringing in the Mayhem commercial. Dumb Sports Take, the All-State Big 12 Conference. Brandon Crisp gave an idea, an option for the SEC if this is where it all goes. He said the SEC presented by Bojangles.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, if the Big 12 does it and Allstate's going to pay him $20 million, I have no idea. I think you see it everywhere. Maybe not the first year, but I think you see it. And then maybe the SEC or the Big 10, because their older conferences say, no, we're not going to, they're going to hold out and then eventually do it. But I can definitely see like Conference USA, the AAC, the smaller, the WAC, they'll do it for more exposure. I think I'm surprised they're not the first ones to do this, that it's going to be the Big 12, who has a pretty competitive league, a conference in all aspects of all sports, despite losing Texas and Oklahoma and bringing in Utah. They have Arizona. They, have a lot of good schools, but I think they're just trying to stay relevant. They want to make sure that they still have the money coming in, because let's face it, it's a big loss losing both Oklahoma and Texas in the same year. Now that Red River rivalry shootout, whatever it's called right now, is going to be an SEC game and moved back to 2:30.
So now the big rivalry will be TCU Colorado? Is that
Well, that does seem like a pretty good rivalry. They had a really good game last year, where we thought both TCU and Colorado were going to be really good. I mean, you still have Utah BYU because Utah is reuniting with BYU. Arizona and Arizona State. I think Arizona State moved to the Big 12, didn't they? It's hard to keep track of. We'll definitely have a bigger segment about that just to remind everybody, because this might be the biggest, craziest realignment year because of the Pac-12 dissolving.
yeah?
Oregon and Washington are in the Big 10. USC and UCLA are in the Big 10. Gosh, and it may not even be over. You have Houston, and you still have TCU, Baylor, Houston, TCU, maybe Houston, Baylor. There are still, you still have that Texas base. I mean, I think you're seeing more rivals come back together, historic rivals, and then hopefully there are some newer ones. I think TCU and Colorado will be a good one because TCU and Colorado have never really been in the same conference that I can think about, because TCU came to the Big 12 after Colorado left. Colorado was part of the Big 8 when they merged with the Southwest Conference, and TCU got left out of that merger to make the Big 12. So TCU and Colorado are both big parts of the Big 12 Southwest Conference history, but they've never really been there at the same time that I can think of. I don't think they've ever played in the same conference. So unless Colorado went to the Pac-12 right after, so they didn't play in the Mountain West or anything. So I think that could be a good, because two prolific coaches, Sonny Dykes versus Deion Sanders. I think that's going to be, and obviously a good game last year, a little trash talk going on back and forth. I think that'll be a good one. I haven't looked at the divisions. We'll have to recap everybody on that here pretty soon before the season starts, of seeing what the divisions are. So Colorado and TCU may not even, I assume they'd be in the same division, but they might not even play this year for all we know. We'll have to look at that. Before we leave, we need to shout out the loser of the week. It goes to the Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. That's where the U.S. Open is being held this weekend. If you haven't seen what the greens are doing to these poor golfers, go jump on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, check it out. Just Google, just U.S. Open weird shots, what the greens, whatever. I don't know if they need to water these or do something. Hopefully they did overnight. I mean, that's my experience in golf, is if the ball's moving fast, water it, but a couple of these shots where there was almost a hole in one and then the ball rolled back all the way off the green. We saw one that's going around, that's popular, a golfer just dropping the ball straight down on the green, in the middle of the green, and it rolls off. It just moves fast.
Yeah. So they measure those greens. They measure the speeds. That's actually a calculated thing in golf.
Mm-hmm.
They use a stimp meter, and on Thursday they were fluctuating between 13 and 14 on the stimp meter, which is very high.
Where is it supposed to be at? You're the golfer.
Every place is different. Everywhere's different. I mean, 13, 14's high. You probably comfortable if you could play like an 8. That's better. But they're saying as the weekend goes and these greens, they dry out, the speeds could go up even faster than that throughout the weekend.
So I'm correct, and because I haven't done a lot of research on why, I'm correct saying they're just dry, because that's what your first instinct is. If you cut it correctly and it's not thicker like it's supposed to be, if it's wet, it's going to be slow. If it's dry, so hopefully they watered them a lot. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think this is, it shouldn't be like this, but to be fair, everybody's competing in the same course, so really it is what it is. It just makes it more difficult, but I don't think they the maintenance crew, the whatever group,
as a viewer, I don't know how good this is for it. You want to see guys make some shots. You want to see the pace of play continue to move. So guys missing a lot of shots, running the scores up, the shots up. I don't know that that's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Like you said, it
And-
is a
and-
fair play for everyone has to play it. It's just the
Well, I mean,
scores
when
are
it's
gonna be
like
skewed.
when you have a couple of these kind of things happening, just a couple times, you're like, it makes a weird, crazy reel or video. You're like, oh, that's funny. But when it gets to this level, the guys that play early, at least in the first
Yeah.
couple of rounds, may be at a disadvantage because then the guys that play later see how the course is playing.
Well, here's where the disadvantage could be: is early in the morning, it may play slower than
That's
later
true.
in the day
Yeah,
as it
they'll
dries out. Then it plays
yeah,
faster.
Once it's dried out, I guess that's true.
Yeah, it
it
can
can
go
go
either
both
way.
Yeah, hopefully they did give them some water overnight, but we'll check that out today and tomorrow. I might actually watch some US Open, but I mean, it's like it's the US Open. Like I know you make sure things are taken care of. You know, even the Masters spray paints and dyes their water and grass to make sure for that weekend it's perfect. If it's not, you know, perfectly manicured, but
Yeah.
whatever, check that out. Hopefully they hear this episode and they decide to do something about it. But guys, thanks for watching this episode of the Leadoff. However you're tuning in, hit that like button if you like the show. If not, hit it twice. And don't forget to subscribe. For my co-hosts Tony and Landen, I'm Ashton. Have a great weekend.